Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be discussing the 1982 film, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Of course, this film didn't have an all-star cast in it. It has, of course, Sean Penn, who plays a pothead. I think he's a pothead today, too. But he played Spicoli, who was the original movie pothead. You also had George Reinhold, pre-Beverly Hills Cop George Reinhold. You also had the two major hotties, and so Jennifer Jason Leigh and Phoebe Cates, which is going to get. And I want to discuss those two women more than anybody else in this film. And plus, of course, the top adult in this film was Ray Walston, who plays the teacher, Mr. Hand, the history teacher. He's always giving crap to Sean Penn's character. Of course, this movie is like the best way to describe Fast Times at Ridgemont High is like it's the 1980s version of American Graffiti. Because American Graffiti came out almost like 9 years earlier, in 1973. That was, of course, directed by George Lucas. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is kind of like American Graffiti, but without, the cruising around in the cars. Now, American Graffiti was mostly cruising in the 1960s. Fast Times at Ridgemont High has a group of high school kids in the early 1980s, and so it's almost like every 10 years you have one of these types of movies that represents that decade. And American Graffiti started that trend, and now you have, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Of course, this movie, it has a lot of young actors who before they were famous, in this film, in this movie, and it's kind of fun to see some of the early roles of particularly Judge Reinhold, 2 years before he started Beverly Hills Cop. And so, of course, Sean Penn, who I think won 2 Oscars afterwards, a piece of communist garbage that Sean Penn is. And of course, you see Ray Walston, who was always a great actress since at least the 1950s, so at least over 30 years at this point. He had a great career, Broadway career, with Damn Yankees and South Pacific and so many musicals. It's funny to play the same thing, just a straight comedy role in this film. And also you have the two hotties, Jennifer Jason Leigh, who was about maybe 20 years old, 19 and 20 years old, and about the same, and Phoebe Cates is also about 20 years old at this time. Of course, this movie is Fast Times at Ridgemont High is really famous for really 2 or 3 moments in this film. One of them is, of course, the scene where Spicoli, or Sean Penn's character, is in class, and Mr. Hand plays, or Ray Walston's character plays the history teacher, and he orders a pizza during the middle of the class. and that scene, and also you had a dream sequence with Spicoli saying he's a big surfing champ. He says, that's real gnarly, it was speaking real 1980s language there, and he said, hey dude, let's party. He does that. And those are 2 scenes that Spicoli's character is really famous for that. Ordering a pizza and that dream sequence. There's another famous dream sequence, but it has to do with Judge Reinhold and Phoebe Cates' character. Of course, the other most famous scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High is the scene where you see Phoebe Cates in this red bikini, and Phoebe Cates is beautiful. I mean, she is drop dead gorgeous. And actually, other than this particular moment that I'm about to mention, the only other movie that Phoebe Cates is known for is being in the Gremlins movies. But she didn't look as sexy well, she was beautiful in the Gremlins movies, but she didn't look as sexy as this scene, when she's wearing this beautiful red bikini, and she has a great body. And anybody who doesn't think that Phoebe Cates does not have a great body, either have to be blind or gay. Right? It doesn't have to say that right now. So George Reinhold is seeing, because he's supposed to play the brother of the Jennifer Jason Leigh character in the film. And so Jennifer Jason Leigh and Phoebe Cates were in the pool because their family has a pool. Jennifer Jason Leigh and George Reinhold's family has a pool in the backyard. And Jennifer Jason Leigh and Phoebe Cates were in the pool because their family has a pool. Jennifer Jason Leigh and George Reinhold's family has a pool in the backyard. And Jennifer Jason Leigh and Phoebe Cates were in the pool because their family has a pool in the backyard. And Phoebe Cates is in a bikini. And it's a shame that Jennifer Jason Leigh is not in a bikini, which I'm bummed out over. But how come Phoebe Cates is in a bikini and Jennifer Jason Leigh wasn't? Because she also has a beautiful body. She was also beautiful. And I'm going to mention Jennifer Jason Leigh in a minute. What happened with Phoebe Cates is that Judge Reinhold is in the bedroom, and his bedroom overlooks the pool, and he sees, of course, checking out Phoebe Cates in a bikini, and so he has a dream about her as he is, I'm sorry if any kids are watching this. He is, he's doing something to himself that's totally inappropriate. As he's dreaming about Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool in a bikini, her hair is slicked back, wet slicked back for being in the pool, and she takes off her bikini top, and she exposes her boobs, right? Which is the most, like I said, it's the most famous scene in the movie where sees Phoebe Cates topless, and he starts kissing Judge Reinhold's Judge Reinhold in the movie. And as Judge Reinhold is dreaming this, he's doing something inappropriate to himself. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. And Phoebe Cates in the reality of the film, actually walks in on him as Judge Reinhold was doing that. And goes, oh, I'm sorry. And of course, the scene ends with Judge Reinhold says, "Does anybody ever effing lock anymore?" Well, it's his own fault. He didn't lock the bathroom door. If you locked the bathroom door, Phoebe Cates wouldn't have walked in on him. But to see Phoebe Cates in that bikini, it was, she's absolutely, Phoebe Cates was absolutely stunning in this film, especially in that bikini scene. Of course, the other scene, which the scene that nobody talked about for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, is with Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, who is really the slut in this film, because she does have sex more than once in this film. I have to say that, and she has sex with one particular guy, who immediately dumps her, doesn't contact with her again, and you do see her boobies more than once in this film. I have to say it. You see Jennifer Jason Leigh naked more times than you see Phoebe Cates naked. Even though Phoebe Cates' scene is like it just described that scene, the most famous scene in the film, Jennifer Jason Leigh was naked more times than Phoebe Cates is. And there's one particular scene where this one guy or classmate, she went on a date with one particular guy, but meanwhile she had sex with another classmate. And those two guys actually did have had it out. Because the one that went on a date actually loves Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, actually had challenged the other guy to a fight. Because he finds out that the other guy actually had sex with Jennifer Jason Leigh. And you actually do see Jennifer Jason Leigh completely naked in that scene, because they had sex in a shed or something. And you actually do see Jennifer Jason Leigh naked, and she is just as beautiful, just as sexy as Phoebe Cates is in this movie, and you see more of her naked. You see more of her naked body than you do Phoebe Cates. You just see her in a bikini, and her bikini top was still on when she opens it, and you see her boobs. Phoebe Cates' boobs. She still has her bikini top open, but on her, she's still wearing a bikini, but it's just open to expose her boobs. Jennifer Jason Leigh was completely naked. You just didn't see her. Excuse me for saying this, but we don't see her nether regions. Jennifer Jason Leigh, that is, but because her leg was up and you didn't see her, but she was naked. She just didn't see her nether regions the way she was filmed, but you see everything else. You do see her naked, but you don't see the way it was filmed and edited. You don't see her nether regions. I should point that out. But you do see her naked after the guy has sex with her, and this other classmate has sex with, and this guy was always scalping tickets and stuff throughout the film, for concerts or for sporting events and stuff. And what happens is that she does get pregnant by him, And there is an abortion scene in this film where she goes to a free clinic to have an abortion. And the guy who knocks her up is supposed to meet her there, or pick her up from there, and pay half for the fee for the abortion. And the guy never shows up. And apparently, I guess this guy heard about it, and he wants to beat the crap out the guy who went out with her. And then they after that, they still went out together, but the two of them never had sex. Unfortunately, according to the text scroll at the end of this movie. But as a movie itself, for the first time, I know the movie's been around for 39 years now. And it's the first time I have seen the movie all the way through. The only thing I've seen was the YouTube clip of the famous nude scene with Phoebe Cates. I didn't even know that Jennifer Jason Leigh was totally naked, just about totally naked in this film, which I enjoy seeing her. Because I remember the only other role I know Jennifer Jason Leigh from was like 9 years later, which was in the movie Backdraft, and she had a sex scene with William Baldwin on top of a fire engine. But you don't see her naked though. You see her undressing, but you don't see any. You maybe see her legs, and her topless from above her boobs up. But you never saw her boobs in the movie or any part of it. Just see her bare shoulders and her legs, and that's about it. But her midriff, nothing. In Backdraft, but she was good in Backdraft as well. That was a serious role compared to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was of course a comedy. But to see these two beautiful young actresses, and they're like barely like 20 or 21 years old, and see both of them who were that young doing nude scenes. I mean, it's very rarely at that time you saw nude scenes in movies. Even in the early 80s, but early 80s standards, but that is, that to me, I always remember Fast Times at Ridgemont High from those two beautiful young lady actresses doing nude scenes. Unfortunately, you don't see Phoebe Cates in movies anymore. After she did the Grandma's movies, that's about it. And Jennifer Jason Leigh has been in and out of movies throughout the 90s, the rest of the 80s, and pretty much in the 90s as well. But like I said, I mentioned Backdraft, this came out in 91, but that's about it. But this movie didn't really do that much for me, except for those two scenes with Jennifer Jason Leigh and Phoebe Cates. Of course, was Sean Penn. It's more like vignettes, more than anything else, and didn't really did that much for me. But of course, it is an iconic comedy from the early 80s, high school movie, or a teen film that was prevalent at that time. Which I think that most of the cast was like over, like I said, particularly Jennifer Jason Leigh and Phoebe Cates, they were only like 20, 21 years old at the time they did this movie. They could possibly pass off for teenagers, but I think that's why everybody in this film was like over 20. When they did this movie. Of course, Ray Walston was born in 1914, so he was like over 68 years old at the time he did this movie. And God bless Ray Walston. He was a great actor, great comedy actor, great musical star, and him I liked. Ray Walston was of all the men that was in this movie, Ray Walston was the only one I liked in this movie. And of course, Sean Penn, I hate his guts, but everybody else was fine in this movie. So that's my review of the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Please click on the video, please rate it, please subscribe to my channel, please forward this video on your Facebook pages. Check out all my videos and all my YouTube channel at RowdyC.com, so with WDY, C.com, that's my homepage and Rowdy Reviewer. Please see more, and please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.